I done effed up bad. For those of you that were following on Instagram, then you already know what happened, but essentially I went to go work on my dissertation yesterday and found that my Scrivener file was nowhere to be found. So I did a little bit of a deep dive. My partner and I, both on the laptop and on the desktop, did like disk drill. I did as forensic an analysis of my files as we possibly could, and it looked like all hope was lost. But luckily, there was a file that was backed up on my iPad. However, I lost a full month's worth of work on my dissertation, and I have a deadline in 4 days. We're gonna lock in with a little help from my friends. I'm gonna join some of the study sessions for Accepted Society, and we're just gonna figure it out. I don't have time to crash out. I don't have time to like have a panic about it. I just need to lock in. I've unfortunately had to skip out on my partner's family reunion this weekend. I'm home and I'm just gonna make up my cup of tea, make some food, and we're gonna straight to business, guys. So let's go. Okay. I don't know why it's doing this banding thing every single time I go to video. I'm curious if you can see it. Okay, I don't seem to know why my camera is doing this weird banding thing. I've changed the frame rate. I've done all of the things that you're supposed to do. It's not working. So just bear with me. I am working on section 1.2 because that section in particular required all of the citations that were in the notes from the month that is now missing. So I'm just doing a little bit of recon to salvage the section. Basically, this is looking at the rhetoric of compensation. It's based on this article by, what's his name? Francisco Borge. And what he essentially argues is that it's not just monetary compensation that's being used as a means of coercing people into investing in the company, but also this idea that Virginia is compensating for the failures of England in especially the area of overpopulation and vagrancy. And that's useful to my study because the concern over overpopulation and vagrancy leads to the Virginia company seeking out the opportunity to remove and transport destitute children from London to Virginia. And so it is this kind of rhetoric of compensation that then leads to essentially children being this form of payment. That Virginia is offering an opportunity to compensate England by taking children that they don't necessarily want. So I am struggling a little bit because all of my primary source analysis from the past month is gone. And that means I need to reread all of these 17th century sermons. Not all of them. I have a couple of them annotated and I do have those notes, but not all of it. So, yay me. You know, that's just how it is. I made a mistake. That's how it goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and tuck into some of these sermons and just see what we can make of them. I have nearly completed that section. I was working through these two declarations made by the company that I had read before, but all my notes are gone. The first declaration was published after they had sent out a bunch of supply ships, and one of them had the new governor on board, and his ship, the Sea Venture, actually shipwrecked in Bermuda. And this actually became the foundation for the Tempest, I believe. And he does eventually, with his crew, end up in Virginia, but they don't have any word of his whereabouts in London. And because they had so much kind of negative press, they published this declaration about essentially the aims of the company, and basically stating that even though that ship was lost, that this does not mean that the company has failed. It doesn't mean that they will not continue or that their mission has failed somehow. I'm writing a section about that. There's also a later declaration after he is discovered and he makes it to Virginia. This is Sir Thomas Gates. Then they, have this big celebration about, that he'd been found and that the mission isn't doomed, that kind of thing. I'm reading my way through them and taking my notes. I actually decided that I would take some of my notes in my dissertation diary rather than just in Scrivener, because first and foremost, Scrivener was not reliable yesterday and lost all my stuff. But also I just wanted to kind of sort out some of the arguments because it just helps me to sort things out. They basically make 4 different arguments. First, that the aim of the Virginia Company is obviously to spread Christianity. The second is to honor the king by offering an opportunity for those that are overpopulating England to be transported abroad. The third is specifically the opposition to the threat of Spain. Now, there's a lot of discussion about Spain and their colonization efforts and how the Virginia Company says that they're different, that they're not as violent, that they're not as driven by money, etc. You can assume how I feel about that. But the thing that's interesting to me is that there's this concern that Spain will essentially become so powerful because it has so much money and because it has grown so vastly that England won't be able to compete, not even commercially, but that they could be under threat. That's not an argument that it is surprising to me, but it's not an argument that I had seen made so directly in the previous documents. Then there's also that they need to find a way to bring in commercial goods so that they can compete with the European market, more specifically the Dutch and the Spanish, because without it, they will be taxed higher and they'll be paying a greater price. And so they need to find a way for a domestic company to provide those goods. So that was an argument I also hadn't heard made so explicitly before. And I wrote those down. It's about noon now and I need a bit of a break. So I'm actually just gonna go take a bit of a power nap, have a bit of a rest, and then come back to it after I've taken a little bit of time to breathe. But I'm happy with the progress that I'm making. I feel like even though I lost my notes, luckily a lot of the information's up here. It's just that the quotes and things that I had saved are missing. So I have to go, you know, find them again. But it's time for a break. I'll check in a little while when I come back to the desk. Okay, I managed to break through this one section, but I've now reached the other section I need to work on, which is based largely on all the notes that I lost. So I'm having to like deep dive back into the primary sources because this is a section that is a contribution, whereas the previous sections I'd say is more of a literature review and a little bit of primary source analysis, but it's very similar sources that are used by other historians. And I don't think I'm contributing any new thoughts. Whereas this section focuses on paternalistic language within Virginia Company propaganda. All my notes obviously are gone. So I don't have my specific examples, so I'm having to dive back in. But I've now reached that point in the day when I just want to be done. I just want to be done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a break. I think I might actually walk over to the grocery store and just pick up a few things so that way I can actually make some food, because as I found this morning, there is no food in this house. There's no eggs, there's no bread, not good. So how am I supposed to have French toast tomorrow on a Sunday if I don't have that? I mean, I'm planning on going to a bakery tomorrow anyway, but I feel like I should probably go get some necessities. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go find some food. But I do need to get out of this house because it's actually driving me bonkers. And I need to stop rambling. So anyway, that's the update. I will check in with you guys in a little while, but my brain is fried. It's over. I've plateaued. I'm never gonna grow again. I'm never gonna write another word again.
I literally think you said something like this is like my ceiling or something.
I just love how I wish that somebody was around to record all the wild, stupid stuff that I say when I'm like crashing out.
You're so funny about it as well, because you're so glued to your phone as soon as a video goes up, and you're just like watching the numbers, and when it doesn't like spike straight away, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is there's nothing that I can say to you in that moment. Like, there's no reassurance
No. No. I think we've poorly conditioned ourselves, Kate. I can't write unless I'm in a beautiful library, and working from home just ain't cutting it.
I think you're gonna need to find another niche for library closer to London.
I think I've hit the bitch baby stage of the evening.
I wonder what gave you that idea.
I've like hit the point where I'm like, I can't do it. Nothing's working.
I think it is time to go to bed.
I think you're probably right. I told myself that I wouldn't go to a bakery and that I would bake from home to save money and time. And then I realized that we basically didn't have almost half the ingredients that I needed for this recipe. So I think I actually ended up spending more money and much more time than had I just gone to a bakery. But then I wouldn't have this delicious looking pumpkin cake with vanilla bean mascarpone icing. So I think it's gonna be worth it. Oh my God, that's so good. This is autumn in a recipe. This is amazing. This reminds me of like going to a pumpkin patch and wearing wellies and running around in autumn leaves. It's very moist, it's got a lot of flavor to it. It's delicious. I can't wait for London Boy to try this when he gets home. So today I need to work on the second section. And I am so tired. My brain just feels very, very sleepy. I had a good night of sleep, but I just feel like a little run down. In addition to the dissertation, I also have 2 YouTube videos that need to be filmed today. So that way they can be prepared for editing. I will be the one doing the editing because I no longer use an editor. But if I can get that done today, then that really saves me a lot of time later. So what I'm gonna do is just enjoy my cake, make myself a cup of tea, and get the filming out of the way. I don't think it'll take very long, but I need to get that done and then work on section 2. I have a bit of a plan on how I want to approach it and specifically which sources I want to look at. So I'm gonna go back to my good old trusted Edmund Morgan and work my way through. So that's my plan at the moment. I feel like I haven't made as much progress as I wanted by this point in the weekend, but I'm also just so tired. I'm gonna go ahead and eat this and then lock in and get going. Hello friends, good morning. It is the next day, Monday, and yesterday I, to be honest, didn't get a whole lot of writing done. I think I wrote about 500 words in the second section, which was not as much as I obviously wanted to get done yesterday, but I think I just needed to take a little bit of a step back and organize my thoughts around this section. So I ended up going into my dissertation diary and making a little bit of a diagram, and I basically said, what does this section need to accomplish? And so I basically just kind of outlined all of the different ideas that I have and then kind of put it into a bit more of a functional linear outline. And I also looked over some of the primary sources in order to just collect my thoughts. I'm currently in one of the PhD Done write-in sessions. And when we were doing our check-in at the beginning, Maria had asked basically how to engage with primary sources that you've read so many times and you're starting to get, I guess, not bored of them, but like you feel like you're not getting as much out of it and it feels a bit monotonous. And I was talking about how when I am engaging with primary sources, I have my notes. So I have the database with all of my quotes and things that I'm pulling, and sometimes I'll either annotate in the margins of that in my own language, in my own, like in a kind of conversational manner. So for example, you'll go into my annotations, and I won't show you this because there's a lot of swearing in it, but essentially I'll go through and be like, WTF, or like, this is BS, or oh, he really thinks he did something here, something along those lines. Basically, I talk to myself in the annotations. The other thing that I do is jotting my ideas down in my dissertation diary. So this is one of the primary sources where I said this is the outline of the Virginia Company's objectors' arguments. And it's just kind of laying it out in my own words, what is being said, what is being argued, and that way it just helps me kind of signpost in the dissertation itself to say the three main points are, or the three primary themes I've identified are, something to that effect. And it just helps me, the writer, organize my thoughts, but also to help the reader see where I'm going. And the problem that I'm having with section 2 is that the actual primary source material between the years like 1610, 1611, and 1618 are very thin. We have some of the colonial records, so like the instructions to the governor. There's a primary source that Warren Billings has available. It's page, it's 34, where is it? And this is the excerpts from Laws Divine, Moral, and Martial in 1612 when they employed martial law in the colony. So I have that, which is somewhat helpful, but what I'm really looking at is what's happening in London. Regardless of what happened to the documents, I don't have them. So I need to figure out what source material is the most useful, and all of those notes are what is now missing from my notes. Because I did have some primary sources. They're still very thin, but regardless, now I need to figure out essentially how do I make these arguments, which I know from reading the literature, but also add primary source texture into the text, into the dissertation. So that's my task for today. But instead of just stressing out about the deadline, I'm trying to remind myself that I get to work with these sources. I get to study history, and it's a fun thing to be able to pull this together. And I remember when I was working my job last year, and I just didn't feel like I had the time to really, you know, engage with these sources. And now that I do, I'm trying to not take it for granted. So anywho, that's the plan for today. Section 2, we're gonna get through it. I'm gonna go ahead and crack open Warren Billings. This is a documentary history of Virginia from 1606 to 1700. It's called The Old Dominion in the 17th century. I'll add the citation in the description so you can look it up if you'd like. But the other book that I'm citing and have cited a million times over and talked a lot about, and basically anybody that wants to study the history of slavery in Virginia needs to read this book. This is American Slavery, American Freedom by Edmund Morgan. So these are the two books that I am looking at primarily today, and I'm gonna stop talking and start writing. friends, it is Tuesday, and today officially would be the day of my deadline, but I did email my advisor yesterday saying that I will have it to them on Wednesday morning. And I am working my way through section 2. I was going through the primary sources yesterday and found some interesting breadcrumbs that I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole of. Essentially, there's quite a lot of discussion around, obviously, the conversion of Indigenous people in Virginia, but they specifically start focusing on children. And there was an investor who sent the Virginia company like 500 pounds to educate Native children in Virginia. The problem that I'm having is that I actually did write about this at one point, and I'm just trying to find the document where that is. I know it's in Scrivener somewhere. It's like the original draft. Where is it? I can't seem to find the year. I know it's in a draft that I had sent my advisor previously, so I just need to find that, because I have written on it before. Anyway, I don't know. My brain's like not totally with it this morning. I think I need like coffee and food. But I got up early because I just wanted a bit of quiet time to work on the dissertation before my partner got up. And that's where we're at. I just need to get through section 2. Section 3 is like in a pretty decent spot. That's the section I feel the most confident about because I have way more source material to work with. But that's the plan for today. We're just writing, and then I have a podcast recording this evening, and we're meant to have the Catabasis reading group meeting today, but it seems like people want to have it rescheduled so I have more time to read. So I might do that. Anywho, I need to stop rambling. I just wanted to check in and say, hey, I'm alive. I'm here. We're doing the damn thing. Anyway, that's what's going on. Let's write. I'm so excited. I have 10,000 plus words. I am in the 35 page mark, and I still have like a section and a half, like a subsection and a half to finalize. And then I need to do the conclusion and all of that. So I'm hoping that I am at a solid like 36 plus pages with this chapter. Now that's not going to be the final page count, because I will say that section 2 is really thin at the moment, and I just probably need to do a little bit more reading and have a conversation with my advisor before I fill that section out a bit more. But I finally reached a section where my argument like really picks up pace, and it just feels so good. It finally feels so good. And I don't remember the last time I've had a submission where I've had a deadline and I haven't been like just completely crashing out beforehand. The last time I had my like mini submission, I showed you that vlog. I, had a good cry, was really stressed out. I do not feel that stressed. I feel like I'm actually really proud of what I've produced, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with my advisor, and I'm so thrilled. I'm so pleased. It is Wednesday, the official day that I need to submit this chapter, and I will say that this is one of the only times that I can remember where I've gotten to the point where I'm about to submit and I'm actually quite pleased with what I've produced. There's one more section that needs a bit of work. I think it'll probably be another page or two that needs to be written, but the rest of it is looking good. I feel like my argument, especially in the latter section, is really strong, and the writing is going to need some work. I think there's places where I'm going to need to go into further depth, but I am in a good spot and I'm really happy with what I've produced so far. We are currently sitting at 10,700 words, 36 pages. I think by the time I submit this, ideally I would like to have it at around the 37, 38 page mark. So that way, when I do the revisions and I get the feedback from my advisor, hopefully we can expand to about 40 or more pages, because there is definitely some sections in section 2 that could use some further depth. I was just kind of, hitting the end of my intellectual capacity at this time. So that's the plan. I'm just going to continue finishing up and polishing this one section, and then it's time to hit submit. So I am really pleased with the work I've done so far, and now we just need to get past the finish line. Guys, I did it. I officially submitted chapter 2 in rough draft to my advisor. We ended at 37 pages, over 11,000 words, and there's still room to change, but I sent off the email. And another thing that I wanted to add is that one thing I'm trying to practice is not kind of showing off insecurity when you send off an email. So one thing that I noticed a lot with my clients, I've noticed it in myself, I notice it a lot with academics generally, that we tend to say, like, this draft is really bad, whatnot, like, be kind, that kind of thing. And I think it's because we need some kind of validation. And if you say, oh, it's terrible, then the immediate response from somebody is like, no, it's going to be quite good, I'm not worried. I decided that with this draft, I was not going to do that. And I sent off the email and basically said, hello, professor, this is the completed rough draft for chapter 2. Sections 1.3 and 2.2 are still a bit thin. However, I'm at a point where I could just really use some feedback. So I look forward to hearing your comments and to having our meeting in a couple of weeks. I normally would have all of these caveats, whereas the way that I wanted to structure it was specifically saying that the sections where I know it's a bit thin, it's because I really have just gotten to the point where I need feedback on them before I can move forward. I'm just so proud of what I've produced. It's not, it's not going to be the final draft. There's going to be a lot of edits, but I'm actually at the stage where I'm looking forward to the feedback from my advisor. I'm looking forward to working on the revisions, and I'm really proud of what I've produced, and it just feels so good because the first time I wrote a chapter that I submitted, I was not very proud of it. It felt really disorganized to me. It didn't feel like it had a very solid argument. Whereas when I changed my thesis, like the actual core question that I was pursuing last year, it just opened up so many doors. And I just feel like I have written a chapter that does actually contribute to the discussion. And that is what we want as scholars. So I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the work that I've done, and I am so relieved because my month of absolute chaos is finally over. My sister arrives tomorrow. I turn 30 next week, and I just get to vibe out. I just get to have fun for the next couple of days, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about work. I'm not going to worry about content. I'm not going to worry about anything. I am just going to enjoy time with my sister. I'm going to enjoy taking a proper mental break, and I am just so grateful. And one thing that I want to say in particular is a massive thank you to PhD Done. This is a program that we started back in April, and it is a coaching service for PhD students. Now, I actually got to benefit from this program because it's led by Polly and Clea under the umbrella of Accepted Society. And so I've helped them with the overall programming and marketing and that kind of thing, but actually I've been able to be a student. Having a space where there are other PhD students in different fields, but we're all going through a very similar process, and having a coach, having a person that I would go to for support and for advice and for encouragement and to push me forward has made such a massive difference, because my advisor is rather absent. My advisor really only wants to meet if I have a complete draft. And so those in-between moments when I need to talk an idea out or I feel a bit insecure, PhD Done and Accepted Society has been my support system. And it is honestly thanks to Polly and a conversation that I had with her and Kate back in 2024, which is why I even stayed in my PhD program. And to be able to text Polly and Kate today, they were the first people I told before I even told my partner that I submitted the chapter. It just felt like such an accomplishment and felt like such a milestone. So thank you to Polly, thank you to Kate, thank you to Accepted Society, and for everybody in the PhD Done program, and also to my partner who has been insanely supportive throughout the massive roller coaster that is this PhD. I'm telling you, nothing tests your relationship like trying to go get a doctorate. And I'm just really pleased. So I'm excited. I'm gonna go hang out with my friend Becca. I'm gonna have a nice chill day. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And you know, this is 1 of 5, so we've got a ways to go. We're gonna keep building momentum, but for right now, I'm gonna go get some much needed rest and fun. All right, thank you for watching. Bye, friends.